see that our brothers from the Norfolk are on the Zoom. So at this time, if Norfolk, if y'all are ready, yes, they are ready to be for life. So at this time, brothers and sisters, listen, this is real rap right here. This is the first time in history we want to give it up to our brother, State Rep Christopher Worrell, for making it happen. We have a community meeting, and we have our brothers from Norfolk who are going to be speaking to us at the top of this community meeting. We got our brother Al-Ameen and our brother Fuquan and Al-Ameen. So with that, let's hear from them. Brothers in Norfolk from the AAC is on you. Let's give them a warm round of applause, y'all.
Peace, y'all can hear us?
Yeah, we hear you. Peace.
Peace.
So I know
we appreciate the opportunity for brothers, man. It takes a lot for brothers to make this happen. Generally, when we're building in an uncorrectional space, and when we deal with corrections, I mean, we really didn't pass behind corrections for brothers on this side. This institution doesn't know how to rehabilitate. There's no sensitivity regarding the trauma that we went through in our communities. And, you know, myself, this brother here, in addition to a legion of other brothers, we commit to really organize around the issues that oftentimes people are afraid to confront. Because when the shootings happen in that community, this is where they end up. And when they end up there, there isn't any riots, there's not any full-blown gang assaults, because when they come in here, we try to educate brothers on knowing your smoke. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we committed crimes, but at the end of the day, there was a larger crime conducted on our community. And the genocide and the war that was waged in our community created the tribalism that we normalized is considered gang violence. You know what I mean? And what it is many people see these brothers as disposable, but in truth, these are our greatest allies when it comes to be able to correct and make a systemic shift or a mental shift and to transition it into the leadership that is oftentimes needed in our community. So we do a lot of work without any resources, without any acknowledgement, because we don't do it for that. We do it for the sanity and sanctuary of elevating the brothers behind the wall, because those brothers behind the wall eventually end up to be returning citizens. When they become returning citizens, we want to make sure that they're viable assets to the community, man. So it's appreciated that this form is extended, that it's offered. It's not a surprise because brothers have been putting in work for years, but I thank the minister and I thank the brothers for making knowledge on for us to have this opportunity to have this platform. And I'm going to pass it to my brother Al-Ameen. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, peace everyone. Again, man, I definitely echo what my brother Fu said. And it's just amazing, really, man, to see the brothers out, man. Like, there's a lot of criticism about black men, right? And our mentalities, there's criticisms about our behaviors. But the individuals who have the ability, and the people who are making these criticisms, be the ones who have the ability to create spaces like this, but they don't do it. So it's like you criticizing and you saying what's wrong, but when are you going to be the solution? When are you going to be the individual that create these spaces so individuals can come and deal with their trauma, right? Where individuals can find healing. Like we men, right? And we all have that masculine energy which makes us want to be providers and makes us want to be protectors. But how can we do that if we're not healed? How can we do that if we still dealing with trauma? We still dealing with generational trauma, right? And it's not to say that the individuals shouldn't be a part of the solution or those individuals should be cast aside, but the reality is, what do you want? Do you want an individual that's teaching boys how to be men, that's still dealing with his own trauma? Or do you want individuals that's teaching boys how to be men that's healed from their trauma? And that's just the reality. So my thing is like, it's always beautiful to see these types of spaces, to see that individuals is coming together to be the solution to the problem, not just be complaining about the problem. And I think that like, this is just first and many in my eyes. Like the same thing that y'all doing right now, we do this every day because we got no choice, right? Because we in an all-male facility. But there's a lot of distractions out there, obviously, as there is in here. But there's a lot of distractions out there that can kind of prevent individuals, right, from coming together in this type of manner. So I definitely congratulate y'all, and I definitely just want to continue to just extend, my appreciation. And in any way or anything I can be of service or of effort to AACC or any other brothers that we deal with on a day-to-day, please don't hesitate, man, to get with the brother Minister Randy and let us know. Peace.
Let's give him a warm up applause. And this is powerful. Man, this is such a powerful moment. Before we move on, Brother Fuquan is the brother I was telling y'all earlier that actually gave me the name Know Your Smoke. So Brother Fuquan and Al-Ameen, if y'all could just take a brief minute or two, I want y'all to talk about what you know about the Know Your Smoke campaign, particularly what we were doing, how this movement started behind the wall. I just want you to share with our audience some of the things what happened and what transpired from that we're trying to recreate that energy out here. So can y'all speak to that?
So, really about Know Your Smoke, man. We're in an environment here where it's so easy to pick off each other because, well, obviously it's street away, but the street away was a homicide away. And a homicide away created a greater gulf in our communities. And as we do this work, we're a group that created laws in the State House. Like us, people that others disposed of, like we created laws. This brother created a voter disenfranchisement law that got passed, right? I created a he came from the street. He's from Mission Hill. I'm from Roxbury, right? But we're not alone. We're not exceptional. The thing is, we don't invest into our geniuses, right? So if someone was a drug dealer on the street, why can't that individual learn financial literacy and learn how to run Fortune 500 companies, but no one's really extending that literacy to them? So with Know Your Smoke, what we realized is we need to start concentrating on larger entities that created the genocide that's systemic, but it often translated to internalized racism. Because if we see institutions treating us this way, we begin to replicate that inhumanity on each other. So we started a campaign in 2018, 2019 with Know Your Smoke. And we was holding bills with the minister. Like first it started with 30 brothers from different gangs, then it started with 40, then it was 50, then it was 60, then it was 70 brothers to the point where they closed the room down under the excuse that we had too many brothers there. But every week we was there, we had brothers from different neighborhoods washing beefs, and they did it in front of the minister. And it was often difficult. It was something that was frowned upon before, but we changed the culture because we're not going to be able to change the law until we're able to change ourselves. And we're not going to be able to change ourselves until we change the culture. So the Know Your Smoke campaign was a survival mechanism that we used to save ourselves from our self-appointed genocide that we was replicating from macro society. And I appreciate the energy. I see the brother Dayton in the crowd. See your brother Conan in the crowd. These are brothers that was in these environments, right, that seen that our intellectual property wasn't encouraged. So what we did, we changed the culture. Instead of relying on the big brother, the company system, and guide you, we created a movement where 40, 50, 60 strong brothers committed. Now, when you come down to Norfolk, put all that gang stuff aside. We focusing on getting brothers home, and when you get home, be part of the community. So I'm glad we have Mr. Randy as the outside liaison. He's actually a co-founder of this. But it didn't stop. It translated into AACC. It translated into Harriet Tubman Project. It translated into multiple branches in our city that is seen. So I want to thank the minister for giving us the platform on the street to help elevate Know Your Smoke, because it's something that changed a lot of men's lives here and throughout the state.
Thank you. Thank you for all praise to God. I said to y'all earlier that I'm inviting y'all into a movement, right? This is not stop here. We've been putting in the work from behind the wall to the streets. And so we're going to change the narrative. We're going to change the culture. We're going to have a mental shift. And so up here on stage, we have our panel. And each of these brothers, several of these brothers were actually a part of the Know Your Smoke campaign from behind the walls, right? And part of that was to commit to come out and be a part of the solution. And that's why they're here today. So they'll get a chance to introduce themselves and tell their story. But several of them, because as I told you earlier, when I went into the prison after that meeting, where it dawned on me what was presented to me about the culture, and I went into the prisons. I went to every prison I went to. I was in Norfolk. I was in Cotton. I was in Concord. I was in Shirley. And I called the men and we had these conversations. And some of these brothers are here now because they had a mental shift. So without further ado, I would like for everyone to really briefly, the panel, if you can introduce yourself, take a minute or two just tell and introduce yourself to the audience and what you want them to know about you, and then we'll come back to the questions. So real quick, we'll start over here. You can just start it and pass the mic. So basically, just share some of the things that you put in your bio or whatever you want to share. Go right ahead.
Just real quick, real brief. Greetings, everybody. Peace to everybody. My name is Brother Ricardo Garcia, also known as Almighty Prince Allah. About 48 years old right now. I was incarcerated when I was 17 years old in 1991 for manslaughter. I grew up in Mattapan, Massachusetts, and what I really want to get out of is to see, these brothers, what they've gone through now, what I went through now, is that cry for us out here to help them so that we can help our young. Because ultimately that's where it all boils down to, is that the power that's in there can only really be yielded if you help them bring it right back out here. And we can change the reality in the prisons, from warehouses to educating our people out here in the streets. And one last thing, I also was visiting the prisons as well. And when you come out, join organizations that are uplifting our communities. And one in particular, the 10,000 Fearless Peacemakers, the Hour of Power. Join us every Tuesday at 7 p.m. to help curb the violence and mediate conflict out there. Thank you.
Peace, everybody. My name is Truth. Formerly incarcerated. I served 16 years with these brothers, and the majority of that was in Norfolk. I've been home about almost 8 months now. Fuquan and Al-Ameen, these are my close brothers, and I just Fuquan's very humble, but I don't want to lose this opportunity to just lift this brother up. This brother, he's wrongfully convicted, right? The brother been in prison for 25 years for something he didn't do. So everybody here needs to support this brother in the Free Fuquan movement.
That's right.
So I was incarcerated for a homicide, incarcerated for a murder that took place in Boston. I'm not originally from Boston, right? So what the minister was talking about and what we talk about with Know Your Smoke is the structural racism, right? I got sent to Boston from New Hampshire because of all the racism I was experiencing in New Hampshire, right? And when I was there, right, my blackness was weaponized against me, right? I moved there when I was young, so young to the point I didn't even know I was black until somebody told me I was a nigger, right? Then I got sent to Boston, and then I had to experience and navigate and survive within that space, right? I'm not a gang member, but I had to survive that space on my own, right? And somebody ended up losing their life as a result of that. But the mental shift came for me later, like what Al-Ameen was talking about with the healing. 50%, statistics show that 50% of inner city youth suffer from PTSD, right? Other data shows that residents of inner city communities suffer from PTSD at the same rate as combat veterans, right? So we have this trauma that's driving our behavior, but we also, other statistics show that our communities are misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed with these mental health conditions. So
we have a lot of prevention efforts and movements and programs, but when we're not able to prevent that one, when the inevitable takes place, nobody asks, like, yo, what is it? What happened to you? Right? What did you have to survive? What is it that you have to recover from? I had to recover from all that over 16 years in prison, right? Because nobody, like I said, when I came into the system, nobody assisted me. So the mental shift for me came with the healing. I couldn't, me doing what I had to do to survive in the street made sense, right? It made sense. The alternative was me dying. But I had already, like the minister was talking about, I had already resolved to the likelihood that I'm going to die a premature death or I'm going to go to prison. I thought I'd probably die first. I thought I'd be dead before 23, but I turned 23 in prison with a life sentence. So now, mental shift, like, I'm not even supposed to be here, but how am I going to survive this after everything else I survived? So it was really like a mental health, like I needed assistance with mental health so I could know what had happened to me. I can't recover from the thing that I don't know exists, right? So for me, that's a huge component. Where I started a project called Explanations from Exile. While I was in there, we're highlighting a lot of the mental health components in inner city violence. But I'm not going to take up too much time. But for me, that's what it is. Peace.
I just want to say peace Fuquan. I ain't seen Fuquan since 2005. And we used to hold college together. Thanks for everyone for coming. My name is David Baxter. Many of y'all know me from the nickname D-Boy. I did 19 years in prison. To give you a little backdrop, my original sentence was 55 years. I got 55 years for federal and state kingpin charges and other underlying charges. From the ages 19 to 25, I ran the drug trade in Washington County, Tennessee, Berkshire County, Massachusetts, Oneida County, New York, and other places, just to give you a... So, I was very young at the time, and I was living a very reckless life. And then many of you who know me, Mr. Randy, and certain other individuals here that witnessed me go through this transition. So when we say shifting the mindset, we talking about a person who had a real savage life mentality, who couldn't see any greatness in himself. So I perpetuated my pain onto many others. So even when I went to prison, you think I would learn from that. But what did I do? My genius self went to prison and I took control of the gang culture. I don't mean like Boston gang. Like him, I'm not from Boston. I mean national gangs. I ultimately took control of what y'all know as Bloods, and I ran the blood culture for about 7 years behind the prison system. And under my leadership, became one of the biggest gangs in Massachusetts. At its peak, maybe close to 200 members in every city, town, and jail, prison in Massachusetts. I continued to perpetuate that pain and trauma, but not only in the community, now within the prisons. And brothers that tell you got to a point where they locked me down, they would not let me reside in any population because I was deemed a security threat to Massachusetts, for every prison in Massachusetts. And they began to set proceedings to have me shipped far, far away into federal custody. Sometimes blessings come in real harsh forms. And it was during that time when I had time to really reflect and listen to that voice within that I began to really reflect on my life and the decisions I made up to that point. And there was brothers like Mr. Randy and this brother right here, Matt Hudson, who I can't speak about my transition without speaking about these two individuals. I'm talking about two people who believe in you in ways you thought you could never believe in yourself. And I had to ask them, I want to do good, I don't know how. How does one undo decades of social conditioning? This is all I knew. And I believe that came in the form of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but also in restorative justice, understanding that I was a baby of trauma. And I believe that helped me ultimately break free of that and change the ignorance and ultimately reject criminality. It wasn't easy, it was a slow process to slowly do away with that example of what manhood I took from manhood for so long. But when I got it. And I started, under the mentorship of Mr. Hudson, I started organizing in the prison, cultural events, and I started to understand, wow, with these two men and certain other men seeing me, it's true. I can use my gifts to change lives instead of ruin lives. And that's what I've been doing. I've been home in 2013. I was blessed to get another chance. The highest court overturned my sentence, and I say only because 19 years is better than 55 years. I can tell you that much. 19 years is a long time, but I believe I had to go through what I had to go to get where I needed to go. So I've been home a year now. I work at Roca. I work with the inner city youth throughout Boston. I'm in every hood every day with the younger generation. All the young gang members I know, all my little homies, and I'm teaching them the mental shift. The same way these two individuals taught me how to shift my mental. I founded Motivational Trainers. It's a public speaking company that specializes in training organizations and individuals to reach their highest self. And co-founded with my sister Leslie and my brother Derek Washington, who's in Sousa, the No Longer 3/5 Coalition, where we founded with spearheading voting rights initiatives to amend the state constitution. So I hit the ground running, and I'm doing positive things, and I wake up every day invigorated. And my co-workers are like, how the hell are you so happy every day? I said, because you didn't overcome what I overcome. You right, but I wasn't supposed to be here, or maybe I was supposed to be here, but if the system has the decision, I wouldn't be here. So I see the beauty in rainy days, I see the beauty in the cat running by, and even the dusty rat running down Blue Hill. I see the beauty, I found the beauty in life. So I'm always happy. So, and I just want to pass the mic, but I'm just happy to be here, and I'm happy to be a soldier, an agent of change.
And this is so rich, and I know my brothers, man, got a lot to say, but we want to get to a dialogue, so we could just keep our introduction to maybe at least 1 to 2 minutes, so we can get through everybody. It's all good. I know, we got a lot of fire, we got a lot to say, but this is just the beginning, right? So, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. If we can just keep it for 1 to 2 minutes and then pass it so that we can get to some of the dialogue, and we want to include the audience as well into the dialogue.
Yes, sir. Peace.
Peace.
That's beautiful, and I definitely understand the energy of this day here. My name is Dick Don, and this process is real for me because I can think about the time when I stood trial, like how that gave me a shift. To be able to stand trial and face first-degree murder, that's something that you just don't just think over that. That's something you really got to think about, that they're going to put you away for the rest of your life, right? In the stand trial, not get any offer of a plea, you just go to stand trial for first-degree murder. That's when the shift started happening for me. And all I was saying to myself was like, damn, I've been in and out of prison, like, I've been on my own since I was like 13 years old. DYS, 17 years old, 6 to 10, getting out, turning around, facing life in prison. So that's my shift. And I always used to think about, damn, is I'm destined to be in prison for the rest of my life? Just like Brother Truth was just speaking about, I couldn't see my life, what I was involved with, past the age of 17. So, to have the opportunity to get a 10 to 15 and 15 a day for being an armed career criminal, that was like our opportunity to be like, I want to do something different. And I remember an older brother of mine, he said, and he was facing some Fed charges, and he was my cellie at one time, and he said, D, by the time I get out of here, I want to make sure I have all that street shit up out of me. That's the same mantra that I took once I was able to at least see some type of daylight. And that's something you just can't say and not do. You gotta take the initiative to do it. So I'm gonna pass the mic on that.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. First, I want to say thank you to two brothers here that truly inspired me. Even though I was already on the right path mentally, but I still needed a little push. And Brother Randy, man, I thank you. You know, for many years I didn't miss a Thursday down there, and so I thank you for you coming, you know, faithfully for so many years down there and giving us the right path and the good encouragement you gave us. And this brother here, True Love, man, this is brother here when he came to prison and inspired me to become a better person, to be out here speaking. The brother's doing, you know, he's doing a second, he's going to explain to I'm doing a second degree. I was charged, I'm 53 years old, my name is Victor. From the South End, Villa Victoria. I am solely responsible for the gang, Villa Blunt. So I have a lot of history. When all these kids was couldn't come out the house, I was out there. And also I was introduced to the gangs by Corbett. I used to hang with Lloyd Vinci, Michelet, Kevin, Fat Chuck. Anybody knows Fat Chuck? As an adolescent, we used to break dance back in the days and all that, so that's how I got my, I was a severe bully. I talk about bullying all the time. That's what led me to make these bad choices. They used to call me beggar boy, they used to call me all these names, and I got really, I turned the tables, I became the bully. And I went hard. And 1991, I'm gonna be briefly, I'm not here battling, you know, about crimes and anything with people, but in 1991, I was charged with first-degree murder. 1992, I got found not guilty by a jury of my own peers. I went home. And this is how the mindset of these kids, when I was young, was very mature. Even though I was 25 when I committed this crime, but I was still 14 in my mind. I was very immature. My mind hasn't fully developed yet. I came back for another murder after beating one in 92. Now you figure that out. So I was a very, very violent person. Whatever it was, I shot, I can't tell you how many times I shot a gun. I can't tell you, a knife, a bat, whatever means necessary. I did that. It transited to prison. I went to prison, did the same thing. Stabbed somebody in prison. I had many beefs. And the brother too, they'll tell you we had a little beef, a little something, it wasn't that major. But, you know what I mean? So, just to let you know that it's possible, me and the brother here right now, that know you smoke, but it's possible when you have somebody that have a little beef, that be in the same room together. You know what I'm saying? So, I also wrote a children's book. I wrote a newsletter in form of a flyer about bullying. So my topic, I talk a lot about bullying because I think that was the truth for me. I'm like an open book. Any questions you brothers? Let me know. Good basketball player, I could have went to college. Just like True, good basketball player. A lot of talent. Pretty sure you young brothers got talent. You need to utilize it, learn what you're talented, and use it. So I'm here, and thank you for having me.
Peace be unto you. My name is True Love Allah. I'm going to attempt to be very, very brief. Time is of the essence. Currently, I am a youth worker with ROCA in Springfield, Massachusetts, where I get the honor and privilege of being around some of the most criminally involved youth in Western Massachusetts. And I say honor and privilege because this is truly frontline work in what we do in ROCA with speaking to individuals who could have done a shooting maybe an hour before I sat down with him. It's truly an honor and privilege to be able to do that work, coming from someone who's the interim director in Western Massachusetts or the city of Springfield of conflict resolution. We established the Conflict Resolution Center in 2016, and we also have a Stop the Beef hotline. But this work of conflict resolution and mediation started inside of MCI Norfolk, where I spent 15 years doing a second-degree life sentence. After coming home in 2006, I've been blessed, honored, and privileged to do so much work with Student Minister Randy and going back to MCI Norfolk and into other institutions, having the honor and privilege of inspiring some other individuals. But the mission for me, as I pass the mic, is to say, knowing your smoke is about also first knowing that you have the ability to have an impact on the change. The meaning of the word know is can do. So it's one thing to have in your mind saying, I have this information, but it's quite another thing to be able to put into or to manifest what it is that you say you have information about. So knowing your smoke is making that impact or that change. I pass the mic with that. Thank you.
Peace and blessings. My name is Fuquan and Al-Ameen. I'm 48. I'm from Springfield, Massachusetts. I was convicted of second-degree murder. My father was murdered when I was 18 years old, and we attempted to retaliate for the death of my father. And the individual whose life we took, he didn't even have nothing to do with the death of my father. You know, from that point, not to mention, as I was waiting for trial, my son was to be born. So 2 weeks after I was in, you know, he was born, and the shift began a little before that, but that's what solidified my shift, because I knew that I wasn't gonna come out of prison the man that I was at the time, or the boy that I was at the time. I knew I wasn't gonna make it out of the system. So for me, you know, that's when the Million Man March took place. And that's when I was introduced to the concept of atonement and reconciliation. That's when I started taking the committed step, right, toward self-development, because I realized in my criminal element, I was involved in crime. As a matter of fact, the brother didn't mention it, but he's sitting right next to me, but we was from rival crews, right? And his crime is connected to the loss of a life from my crew. So it was during that time when I took the mental shift. I was in Norfolk with the brother, and I was able to connect with the brother, which is, you know, he's sitting here, is a suit and tie. Together, but, you know, I smile because it's happy to see where we're at now due to that mental shift, and just knowing the havoc that I was wreaking in my community. You know, as a criminal, all you do is take, and you don't think about who you affect when you take. So my shift began when I wasn't looking to take anything from anybody. I wanted to give. So I started developing myself and investing in myself, so that when I did, if I was blessed with the opportunity, because as a second-degree lifer, you're not guaranteed parole, right? You have to go before the parole board. And only 2% of those who go before the parole board get it on their first shot, and I was blessed to be, you know, one of those 2% as my brother as well. I say that just to show how powerful the mental shift is. When you shift your mind, what you're able to do, right? You can change literally the course of your life. And, coming out, I wanted to be an asset. And I've had some difficulties along the way because when I came in, I was 18. So I was released on parole, but I went back a few times because, I had to develop decision-making skills. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that, in doing this work, we have to, we have to pay attention to, because the smallest decision can be a setback, but sometimes your setback, right, is a way for you to step forward. So, with that being said, I know we have a lot to get to, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so I want to get the pride, and this is powerful. I hate to even try to touch your wisdom because it's so beautiful. But I know that some of the audience want in on it as well. So we should be mindful of that.
I'm going to do it quicker. But let me not miss the opportunity, of course, free Fuquan, but also our brother Glorious Lord Shah King Allah, who's also at Norfolk, who's instrumental in a lot of us getting knowledge of self. Also free my biological brother, Trevor Watson. Big Trev, he's in the family. Doing 30 years. So I'm true CLR, 1991, sentenced to 15 to 20 years sentence, where I met some of the great gods behind the wall at MCI Norfolk. Hung jury, came back a second time, found guilty. I ended up serving 8.5 years, pretty much all at Norfolk. Me and Prince were part of a program behind the wall called Project Youth, which allowed us to share our story on how we veered into the prison industrial complex. Allowed us to share, talk to at-risk youth, high school kids, GYS kids. So not scared straight, but just to get them to not become what we became. Fast forward, I just go through my resume real quick. I touched down, I should say flowers to go to Minister Randy, who was in turbulence for years in the DOC under some very, very adverse circumstances. Man, salute to you, Lord Minister. Flowers while you live, while you can smell them, I should say. Currently, I'm blessed to be the Chief of Community Engagement for the District Attorney's Office in Suffolk County. Prior to that, I was Assistant Deputy Superintendent at Suffolk County Sheriff's Department, helped start the Boston Reentry Initiative, and one of my best contributions to the system was the creation of the Peace Unit. Positive energy always creates elevation. That came right from the brain of Islam and Muhammad's Mosque number 11. What else? I was at EOPS, the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, for 2 years, working out of Boston pre-release. So I've been able to make a lot of major moves. I consider myself one of the biggest beneficiaries of a second chance in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But you can't have a second chance unless you have a first chance. We don't have time to get to the first chance, right? But I will say, salute to His Excellency, Governor Deval Patrick, because I was blessed to be able to get a governor's pardon and get fully restored. So I could tell you I don't have a history, but that's not true. Peace.
Peace, everybody. Peace. My name is Richard Brooks. Some of you may know me as Big Rich. Others know me as Warren Ruler. I'm just recently released from serving the first degree natural life sentence. I'm sitting here today, all due to divine intervention.
Go ahead, brother.
Divine intervention. And for me, it's a beautiful thing because
burned inside. It was a struggle because I didn't know when I would come home. But I had that faith that lied inside of me that always told me that I will. So I kept on struggling forth. But the mental shift for me, I believe when I look back, it started after I got convicted and sentenced. And I realized that I left a 1-year-old daughter behind and her mother to fend for themselves in this crazy world. So that was the beginning of my mental shift right there. So when I came upstate, I did my best to stay positive, even though I understood the environment that I was surrounded. But when I got to Norfolk, there was good brothers such as Brother Glorious, some of these brothers here on the panel, Rob Orn, Drew C, Brother Prince. These brothers was always spreading the word, spreading that righteousness. And one day, Brother Glorious told me that I was a leader. At that point, I didn't understand. He told me I got a lot of influence. I shook it off like, peace, brother, thank you. But I now understand that seed that he planted in me. And the second aspect of that mental shift was when I joined the Nation of Islam. And that allowed me to understand who I am and understand my purpose. And that when I see my brothers, I see myself. And so from that point on, I decided to be an agency of change. So because of that, I'm sitting here today because I told myself that when I get released, I want to be given an opportunity to give back. So I sit here today. This is my opportunity to give back to my community because I played a part in help destroying my community. Now I want to play a part to help build my community. So with that, I'll pass the mic. Thank you, brother.
Peace. 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 My righteous name is Divine Victory Loverlaw. I'm not going to take no time at all. I told Allah Fuquan, standing on a baseball field, that I would never sleep peacefully once I was released until he was free. When my mother died from a fentanyl overdose while I was in the cell, my educator, Law Fuquan, told me everything was going to be all right. When I told that man that I didn't know who I was, and that the hood told me that I was a top shooter, because I was the shooter that you talked about. I was really the shooter that you talked about. I didn't know any better. I just didn't know. He told me I wasn't a shooter, that you're great. I love you, God. Peace. I mentor the youth for you. I own my own nonprofit called Not on My Watch Mentoring. I mentor about 20 youth right now in the city of Boston. And my only job is to tell them what the OGs didn't tell me was that you don't have to spin that corner and kill nobody, bro. They told me I had to. As a matter of fact, they said, don't go around that corner no more unless you can grab the person you're going to shoot. I'm done. Peace, God.
Time is of the essence. There was a few other brothers that should have been up here. I want to recognize Yard Time Entertainment over here. He's doing a lot of great work. I want to recognize Steve Peter over here. He's doing fighting for his freedom. He's representing the ladies campaign. And we got to absolutely recognize Matt Hudson and one over in the audience as well. So, brothers and sisters, this was so powerful that how you feel? How you feel? Was that impactful? Sir. All praise to do to Allah. Listen, so this is the mental shift. And so when you hear these men's story, and you didn't hear the whole thing, but clearly these are brothers that have transformed. These are some of the brothers that were considered the most incorrigible, beyond reform, but they have reformed. And now they're coming back to contribute to their community. And so these are the type of people that we need, right, to correct the wrong and get back out there and mentor some of these young brothers so that they don't have to repeat those very same mistakes. So with that being said, you know, we want to get you involved. I have some questions, but I'd rather take it to the floor. My man Danny Santana's here as well. My bad, I didn't mention you, right? He's supposed to be up here on the panel. He's also doing a lot of good work. Let's give our brother a round of applause. So if you have any questions, line up over here and we can get the mic going. Go ahead.
Hey, you guys, thank you. I want to talk about something real quick that these brothers didn't talk about. Okay? And what I want to talk about is fear. When I came home, nobody wanted to give me an opportunity because everybody was afraid to work with me. I had to create my own opportunity. Okay? The way that I did that was that I created my own nonprofit like this brother did right here. So now I have all the opportunity in the world because I created it. But I was only able to create it because I overcame my fear. I overcame my fear of being a failure. I overcame my fear of what people thought about me. And I overcame my fear of not believing in myself. Okay? Each one of these brothers are up here right now because we got one thing in common. We overcame our fear. We overcame our fear to be able to come out here today and talk in front of you, to tell you what the brothers didn't tell us. So the number one thing that you need to do to be able to start that mental change is overcome your fear. That's what I want to let you brothers know.
First of all, I'd be remiss in not thanking Brother Fuquan, Al-Ameen, for seeing in me something that I didn't see in myself. My mental shift started at Norfolk when I met these two brothers. I knew Fuquan for a long time. I did 28 years on wrongful conviction, sentence of life without parole. Know your smoke is important to me. It's with me forever. I have a tattoo on my arm. Injustice everywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Know your smoke. I just had to say that. Thank you, Fuquan. Thank you, Al-Ameen. I love y'all. Free Fuquan, Instagram. Get on there, support this brother. I got you, bro. Harriet, Tubman, bring me home.
Peace, good afternoon, everybody. All praises are due to Allah. Yes, sir. I'm going to start off by saying my government name is Jamie Wallace. My righteous name is Louis Supreme Allah. I want to commend everybody for being here today, particularly these brothers here. Peace to the nation of gods and earths. Today's mathematics is knowledge and understanding, all being born in the culture of freedom. We are here today to free our culture. Peace.
If you have a question or you want to make a comment, raise your hand. I don't see no hands. I don't see nobody standing up. You got? Yes, sir.
You got one right there? You got one right there?
If y'all could tell each other anything from right now and the past, what would y'all tell yourself?
Any of y'all want to take that? Who want to take that?
Peace, bro. I appreciate that question. So I would say your life is on the line, right? I didn't really realize, because I didn't have I didn't really have like any intention of living beyond a certain point, right? And I was okay with that. But then when I got charged with first degree, and I had lawyer money, bail money, I knew it was coming, I was ready. They told me, you don't get a bail. You just got charged with first degree, you're not getting a bail. And my lawyer paid him before I turned myself in. Paid him, but he's looking at me like, I could tell he don't see nothing but a nigga when he's looking at me. So at that point, I didn't know what was real. My whole world, the whole bottom dropped out from underneath me. I didn't know what was real. I got in a fight, I went to the home, my mother sent me a Bible and a dictionary. I started studying the dictionary because I knew my life was going to depend on me being able to get this individual to respect me, right? I had to articulate myself. But your life is always on the line. The first degree sentence that's what made it real for me, but my life was always on the line. Decisions I had to make, decisions I was making were going to determine the next step that my life was going to take. So that's true for you, that's true for everybody in the room. That's not just a prison thing, right? That's a life thing. Your life is on the line. So for me at that age, that would have hopefully, I think that would have like crystallized it for me. It's like, yo, I didn't know it was real. But I'll say that.
Thank you. Before we got on, I want to give Fuquan and Al-Ameen, they joined. I'm just happy that they're part of this community meeting. So I don't know if y'all want to tap in on that as well or give anything else before I pass it to one of these other brothers on the panel. Do y'all want to tap in on?
The question that the young brother asked.
Yes, sir.
Ask the
question again.
You could tell anything from your past self right now, what would you tell yourself?
If you could turn.
We tell your younger self.
Yeah, if you could tell your younger self something, right? You could go back into the past and tell your younger self something now that you know, what would that be?
Oh man. I would tell my younger self to hang around people that are positive, that are good role models. Because I think when you're younger, you're so enamored by a lot of the peer pressure, and sometimes you can't really discern between what's a good role model and what's not. But I think anyone who is taking their life seriously, right? When you're young, I tell my son's 12, right? And I tell him, I say, if people are gonna love you, right, let them love you for taking your life seriously. And if they're gonna hate you, let them hate you for taking your life seriously. So when he's in school, he's a kid, he's young, he's acting up, I'm like, it's important that you know that the decisions that you're making now is going to affect you later on in life. So when you're in school and you're doing what's right, that's you taking your life seriously. And I think that in the environments that we come up in or that we raised in, we're taught to kind of minimize our life, right? Or really not to be farsighted and not understand how the consequences that you do today can have a long-term impact. So as a young boy, as a young man, I think we're wise enough to know oftentimes when we're taking our life seriously. So if you're in school, right, and you're being mindful of the grades that you're getting, you're being mindful of the individuals that you're hanging around, you're being mindful of how you speak to your mother, how you speak to your father, your parents, right? This is all a part of you being serious about how you take your life, because oftentimes, right, the individuals who are trying to guide us in the right way or trying to teach us the right thing, we reject them. We reject them because that peer pressure or those friends or that immediate circle, right, is oftentimes more important to us. So again, it's not about how you talk. I'm not asking you to be preppy. I'm not asking you to be the smartest person in the class. It ain't about that, right? I'm not asking you to live up to the standards that white America has set for you. I'm just asking you to take your life seriously. And whatever that means to you, be authentic and be true with that. So I would tell my younger self, just be real about your life, take your life seriously, and don't let nobody tell you that you can't do nothing. Don't let nobody minimize you or make you feel like you're less than. Peace.
can hear me? Nah, peace, bro. Like, for me, I would tell my younger self that, yo, you was right. Because I thought a lot about myself growing up. I had a high esteem, I had a lot of motivation, I had a lot of ideas, but I surrendered myself to my environment. You know what I mean? Like, growing up in the 80s crap era, I seen trash all over the street, so I began to think of myself as the trash. Disposable, useless. The same thing that my mother told me my father was. So, but deep down, I felt like they was a genius to me. I felt like if cultivated, I could do something divine, but I was never put in a peer setting that actually encouraged that, elevated that. So, if I had the fortitude to live out my imperatives, that's what I would tell my younger self. Like, live out your destiny. Like, you're right, you're correct. You are great, you are divine, you are unique. There's only one version of you. That's what elevates your value, right? And no one gave me a sense of value because I was different. The only reason why diamonds are valuable is because there's so few of them. So there's only one of you. And that's where the value is devalued, is when I started mimicking everything in my environment. So one thing I would tell my younger self is like, yo, you're absolutely right. You are great. Now, capitalize upon your greatness by seizing on every opportunity that's before you, because that's something that I didn't do. And when I realized that, it was too late. I was 19 years old with a first-degree indictment, didn't know how to navigate the prison system until I had to will away. So sometimes you don't know whether you got wings until you're flying out of a 6,000 feet plane and you have to will it. So there's a price for all wisdom. Unfortunately, a lot of us pay a lot of our life for it. But I would just tell my younger self, man, animate your greatness, right? You're right, you are great, you are exceptional, but it's your responsibility to capitalize upon your greatness whenever any opportunity is personified, and do not cater to mediocrity, because mediocrity is equivalent to death. Please.
So I wanted to kind of respond to the young brother's question. Oh, thank you, bro. So, what I would say, and I think it's more vital as I started to really understand a lot of things when I was young. One, the reason why we go into the streets, we're searching out something. And what we don't know is that the majority of us that are out there already are doing the same thing. So we're looking for a different type of relationship that we think that we don't have already at home. And some of us, maybe we don't, right? So we use these friendships, or what we call friendships, right? And that opens up to influences where now other people manipulate those. So you might have an older guy on the block who sees a young brother like you brothers, who maybe whatever you're not getting or you think you're not getting at home, starts to become a big brother to you, starts to look out for you, right? And then he uses that influence, next thing you know, you're on the block. But the reason why you're responding to that is because of that lack of something. And that's what you have to address in yourself. What is that lack coming from? Right? And then understand this thing that I had a hard time understanding, that what you're seeing out there is not true. Do you understand what I mean? What I mean by that is that you see everybody doing it, and so it gives the appearance, because everyone's doing it, that it's true. Right? But it's not. And the hardest thing for us to accept when we hit rock bottom is that we gave our life over to something that wasn't real at all. That's what creates the mental shift.
Peace. I'll be very brief. I know the program is short. Shout out to the young people that are here. I just want to salute the process, because I don't think we had rooms like this when we were younger. Like, I'm the same age as you gentlemen on the panel, so this is the question I want to ask. Growing up in Roxbury, not having gentlemen like you to talk to, family members involved, going through some of the similar situations, now that you're home, how do those of us that have not been through what you've been through, some of us that are adjacent to it, may be affected by it, how do we help you amplify your message? Because your message is what's missing, right? Our brother Randy talked about in the opening, how do we unite? Your message of truth is that of courage that people even talk about as you're healing yourself continually. So how do those of us that touched it or were close to it or have friends or brothers like yourselves, how do we amplify your message and carry that back into our community so when we leave here, we're continuing to create these spaces and not just waiting for the next time we all gather?
Right, thanks. No, sir. Yeah, a bunch of y'all want to tap in on that. And be mindful, right? We got to wrap it up because we got another ceremony, so try to be brief with your response.
Peace. Shout out to Brother Fuquan and Brother Al-Ameen. I don't know y'all, but I support y'all, brother.
Man, support y'all. Keep up the work inside.
That's right. That's right.
I would say, for those of us that may not be able to understand what's going on, we just got to be able to let our people know, specifically the youth who are out there in the streets, that they've been lied to.
That's right.
I've been lied to. And the brother before me been lied to. And we got to stop the lie, because that's what's going on. We're living out there a fantasy. And it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. And I just say this last point real quick. Lie. There's no right way to do the wrong thing.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The street song, you believe it, right? I just want to say real quick, I want to echo what brother said earlier when he was going through the math problem. That's really the solution, that's the answer to that question. He got like 2 or 3 right, and no one said anything. As soon as he got it wrong, right, he was being corrected. So I want to salute you for that example, and I'm saying that to say that as a community of gods and a community of righteousness, I think, we have to make sure that we continue to lift each other up and salute excellence when we see it. Whether you know the person or not, right? We gotta add to each other. We gotta give it up. We gotta give it up. What we don't do enough of is we don't give it up publicly. I see Big Coleman in the building, or Larry. We really gotta stop doing that, because we got a bunch of different examples, a lot of giants that are doing great work and have been doing it. I came out on Juneteenth. I didn't know the significance of that, right? Juneteenth, 1998. Next month is going to be 25 years of repping us in a proper way. And I'm not saying that for like personal, parade every day. But when my name is mentioned, man, put some respect on it.
Before we go on, I just want an honorable mention to City Councilor Hooliman here, who's here today. She's putting that work, man, make sure that we get acknowledged. So we thank her for her presence, and we thank her for her advocacy and all that she does. We also want to acknowledge our brother Frank Farrell, who's in the back. He was very instrumental. When we started this conversation, it was me, him, and Brian who broke bread and thought about this. I just wanted to acknowledge him in the back. We'll take this last comment, and then we got to wrap it up because we want to get a picture, group picture with Fuquan and Al-Ameen, and then we do got some awards that I want to give out. So let's do that.
Peace. The young brother left. 2 points. The young brother just left, but how I would answer that question is, to my younger self, I would tell my younger self that you got a glorious future, right? But you're gonna go through some things, and as you come across those things, right, stay strong, right, and stay with the best things that was given to you, because it wasn't like I wasn't given anything. I was in a 2-parent household up till I was 8 years old, and my father was incarcerated when I was 8. But those foundational years gave me, right, some basic things that helped me to this very day. So I would tell my younger self to stay the course, and I would tell the young man that you are my younger self. Stay the course, because we can't tell you everything that you're about to go through, but you're gonna go through some things, right? So The second thing, one of the things that we could do is amplify, is you got a lot of money out here.
That's right.
Right? In fact, we can create an organization where this is what we do. Because we're locked out of society because of our record, because of our history. The very thing that we have to give is the very thing that's used against us. Right? So we can pull our resources and create jobs, right? What we're doing. Some of us are already doing it. You know what I mean? But that's something that we can do to amplify this message, to make sure that it's being done. So that, you know, we're able to take care of our families, right? And we're able to give the message to the young ones at the same time. And, you know, kill the two birds with one stone. I think that that's a fair asset.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please. Let's move to together with one round of applause. And give them one round of applause. Listen, it's not over. It's just beginning. This is just the first of many. This is a movement. So we thank y'all for being here and supporting us. We're going to take this show on the road. I want to remind everyone that one of the points was political empowerment. So we had the men from the Black Men's Political Task Force. Anyone still here from the Black Men's Political Task Force? We still have the voter registration. So if anyone here is not registered to vote, let's do that right now. See one of these brothers from the Black Men's Political Task Force and make sure that you register, because that's what Go to School is all about, right? So we want to